when people come in with what they expect of women, it's very much like singing like I told you, do it like you know what I mean?
Yeah, singing like I told you.
And so when you write your own music and you have your own vision, I think it can be a little jarring.
They're doing Song of the Decade, but the funny thing is, it's not really from this decade. But you know, I'll take it. One of the dopest songs in the last 20 years, I'll take that.
No, I didn't hear it. Like, I didn't hear anything about it, but a lot of people would be like, wait, that's not your record? Why did he give that record to you? And I'm like, he never played that record for me.
Amerie didn't fall off. She was pushed. And the ones who did it, two of the most powerful women in pop, Beyoncé and Jennifer Lopez.
I always said she was the original Beyonce. Beyonce stole her steez.
Oh, you think so?
Look at Crazy in Love video and look at Amerie, Why We Fall in Love.
What if the sound that made you fall in love with early 2000s R&B wasn't theirs to begin with? What if it belonged to Amerie and she was erased from the narrative before she even got her shine?
So maybe, but it doesn't mean you gotta like label them and be like, I'm gonna stick you over here and you're not worthy. You know what I mean?
That's
like
the mature way of looking at
so it's like,
looking at things.
Was it inspiration or industry theft? Was Amerie blackballed, ignored, or was she the silent sacrifice in a game of music industry power plays? Let's find out. Amerie was never supposed to be a one-hit wonder. In fact, back in the early 2000s, she was being hailed as the future of R&B. With her fresh blend of go-go rhythms, funky percussion, and a soft, breathy vocal style, Amerie brought something completely different to the game. Her hit song, One Thing, wasn't just a chart topper. It was a cultural shift.
This one thing that got me tripping. This one thing that got me tripping. It did this one.
That song, produced by Rich Harrison, had an infectious energy that made everyone stop and take notice. It earned her multiple prestigious award nominations, like the Grammy Award for Best Female R&B Vocal Performance in 2006. But after a few years, her career started to dwindle. In 2011, she became an independent artist and has never stepped back into mainstream music since. But just as fast as she rose, Amerie was gone. Not from lack of talent, not from lack of effort, but because the industry had already decided who was allowed to wear the crown. Lately, the internet's been buzzing with rumors that Jennifer Lopez may have borrowed vocals from other artists for some of her early hits. And guess whose name popped back up? Amerie. But this time, it's not just JLo in the mix. Beyonce's name is floating around too. Fans have been pointing out a few eyebrow-raising similarities, from melodies to music video vibes, that they say feel a lot like Amerie's style. Coincidence? Inspiration? The debate lives on.
I always said she was the original Beyonce. Beyonce stole her steez.
Oh, you think so?
Look at Crazy in Love video and look at Amerie, Why We Fall in Love.
Amerie had a tough time getting her music the attention it deserved. Back in 2004, while working on her second album, she teamed up again with producer Rich Harrison, the same guy who helped shape her debut All I Have, and who also worked with big names like JLo and Beyonce. Harrison and his team whipped up One Thing, the lead single, in just 2 to 3 hours. Everyone in the room knew they had something special, so they rushed it over to Amerie's label, Columbia. But the label wasn't feeling it.
People are telling me that. I think it's because of One Thing. That's what it was for One Thing, because they're doing Song of the Decade.
They said the chorus needed to be bigger. So Amerie and Harrison hit the studio again and again, tweaking the track to please the execs. But every version kept getting rejected. As Amerie later said, people just weren't getting it. After 6 months of back and forth, they finally decided to leak the song to radio stations themselves. The kicker? Rumor has it, Columbia wasn't pushing One Thing because JLo was gearing up to release her Rebirth album, and the label didn't want any competition. At the time, Bey was carefully building her solo empire with Jay-Z by her side, both musically and strategically. Jay-Z wasn't just her partner, he was her power play. Together, they were aligning with the biggest names in music, pulling strings behind closed doors, and setting up a dynasty. When Beyonce dropped Crazy in Love in 2003, fans were blown away. But critics and industry insiders noticed something strange. The beat sounded almost identical to Amerie's style, and it wasn't just a coincidence. The same producer, Rich Harrison, had taken the exact sound he built with Amerie and handed it over to Beyonce. That iconic horn sample, that same bouncy rhythm, all of it originated with Amerie.
Her sole producer is Rich Harrison. He gives her her signature sound vocals. Beyonce is the fan. She tracks Rich Harrison down. He gives her Crazy in Love. Uses the same formula he used for Amerie.
Let's be clear, Amerie's sound was the blueprint, but the industry didn't give her the flowers. Beyonce got them. Beyonce got the Grammy nominations, the commercial deals, and the global attention. Amerie, she faded into the background, not because she lost her talent, but because she lost her access. And when you're up against someone with the backing of Jay-Z, Columbia Records, and the entire Rock Nation machine, you're not just fighting for chart space, you're fighting for survival. But it doesn't stop there. Enter Jennifer Lopez. In 2005, JLo released Get Right, another Rich Harrison-produced track. And once again, go-go drums, jazzy horns, and an Amerie-coded vibe. At this point, it was impossible to ignore the pattern. Rich Harrison had seemingly passed around Amerie's signature style like a sample pack, handing it off to women who had bigger machines behind them. When radio stations refused to take one thing off the air, Amerie finally got the official release she deserved. Meanwhile, JLo dropped Get Right, another Rich Harrison production, and fans couldn't help but raise their eyebrows at the timing. That's when internet sleuths started digging. Some pointed out how Beyoncé's 2003 smash Crazy in Love seemed to echo the vibe of Amerie's One Thing and Why Don't We Fall in Love. In a 2004 MTV interview, Beyoncé herself said what made Crazy in Love a hit was the horn hook, adding, "It has this go-go feel to it, this old school feel. I wasn't sure if people were going to get it." But fans argue, that sound? Pure Amerie. While the Bayhive insists critics are reading too much into it, many agree something feels off, especially when you consider that Rich Harrison, who helped craft Amerie's signature sound, was later brought in by Matthew Knowles to work with Beyoncé and Kelly Rowland. Some even think that when Harrison described the unique energy behind Crazy in Love, he might have actually been talking about Amerie's influence, whether he meant to or not. "Yeah, I had it in the chamber," he said about finding the right artist for the track. "I hadn't really shopped it much because sometimes you don't want to come out of the bag before it's right. People don't really get it, and you'll leave them with a foul taste in their mouth. So it was just something that I held on to until I got the call from B." In an unrelated statement, Amerie said that you don't hear go-go outside of DC. She was discussing her journey in getting people in the industry to go for her go-go sound. "We did it the first time on Need You Tonight, which was a song on the last album, but we slowed it down a lot. And this time we did it on an up-tempo track. I was like, we have to do it in an up-tempo way because when you hear it on the radio in DC, it's fast. So it's a fresh sound for everybody, but people in the DC, Maryland/Virginia area. They already know what it is." From that statement, Amerie's supporters couldn't help but wonder if Rich Harrison had borrowed a bit of magic from their past collaborations. It wasn't just the music either. Fans also began pointing out that around that time, Beyoncé's visuals started leaning into a funkier, more playful vibe that felt a lot like Amerie's signature style.
They're doing Song of the Decade, but the funny thing is, it's not really from this decade. But you know, I'll take it. One of the dopest songs in the last 20 years, I'll take that.
Still, there's a twist. Crazy in Love dropped before One Thing, which gives Beyoncé fans plenty of ammo to shut down the comparisons. To them, the idea that Queen Bee was copying anyone is just plain ridiculous. But for Amerie's fans, the timeline doesn't erase the similarities, and the debate rages on. Women like Beyoncé and JLo, who had powerful men, billion-dollar teams, and label execs backing their every move. Amerie, by contrast, had creativity, but no industry protection. And that's the real tragedy. Amerie wasn't just left behind. She was actively pushed aside. Because in this game, originality isn't enough. Beyoncé and Jay-Z were climbing, building an empire, and they weren't going to let an unguarded, genre-bending artist get in the way. Jay-Z was known for moving chess pieces in the background, and when Beyoncé needed a solo identity that would dominate, they crafted one with borrowed parts. And Amerie's sound? It became collateral damage, a casualty of an industry that thrives on control, silence, and reinvention, without crediting the source. It has long been a topic of speculation among online communities that Beyoncé has a tendency to undermine the careers of female artists whose song sales surpass hers. For years, Beyoncé has been viewed as untouchable, the ultimate icon of fame, success, and power. On the surface, she's flawless, always composed, always in control, and always ahead of any drama. But behind that polished image, there's been a steady stream of whispers, quiet, persistent stories about what happens when another woman dares to challenge her spotlight, offer a critique, or even slightly shake the edges of her crown.
But
Yeah, I always knew Beyonce was gonna be Beyonce though.
Take Carrie Hilson, for example. For a while, she was that girl. Talented, versatile, and respected in the industry. She had the vocals, the moves, and the songwriting credits to back it all up, having written for some of the biggest names in the business. But everything shifted after she dropped a now infamous line in her song, Turnin' Me On. She didn't name names, but the shade was hard to miss, calling out fake personas and so-called manufactured divas. Fans connected the dots, and many were sure she was taking aim at none other than Beyonce.
I protected the girl that wrote it, who went on to become famous. I protected everyone in the story, so I had to eat that. I had to eat that. And I am still eating it to this day.
Not long after that lyrical jab, Carrie Hilson's career hit a wall. The interviews stopped coming, projects got shelved, and her presence in the spotlight faded fast. She's since spoken about feeling blacklisted, and many fans believe it all traces back to one thing: she crossed the queen. Then there's Tinashe, another artist who came in strong. Her debut single 2 On had everyone watching. It felt like the start of a huge R&B pop takeover. But things didn't unfold that way. Not long into her rise, Tinashe began speaking out about how the industry was treating her. She said she felt controlled, suffocated, and that big decisions about her career were happening without her input. She even hinted at unnamed powers that be, who, in her words, just didn't want her to win.
I was in there with people that I never would have before, and I think the biggest lesson that I learned from that was how important it was to continue to have a perspective.
And while she never named names, speculation grew, especially when her opportunities mysteriously vanished just as she started making noise. And let's not forget Keisha Cole. Keisha Cole, known for her powerhouse vocals and unfiltered honesty, had already built a solid rep in R&B with hits like Love and Heaven Sent. She wasn't one to hold her tongue, and that's exactly what lit the match. The drama kicked off when Keisha took to Twitter and shared her thoughts on Beyonce's track Bow Down, I Been On. Let's just say she didn't mince words.
Don't forget it, don't forget it. Respect that. Wow.
The song was seen by some as a bold assertion of Beyonce's dominance in the music industry. Keisha Cole, however, saw it differently. She tweeted, "Can't stand when people all self-righteous when it's convenient, it makes them look good. LMAO, but can still talk S when convenient to FOH." In a since-deleted tweet, she went on to add, "First women need to stick together, now B's better bow. Sim, but it's all G. Chicks stay shooting the... But when I speak my mind, it's a prob." Her comments about Beyonce were raw, real, and totally unfiltered. She jumped on Twitter, the go-to place for quick-fire opinions, and let the world know exactly how she felt about Bey's song, Bow Down, I Been On. And let's just say, she wasn't impressed. Keisha called out the lyrics and the overall message, saying women should lift each other up instead of tearing each other down. Tweets like women need to stick together, and it makes them look good, but can still talk when convenient too, made it clear she had something to get off her chest.
And there was something about how Keisha Cole complained that you weren't giving her any songs because of your relationship with Beyonce and how she sort of said something about Beyonce.
Over time, numerous theories have circulated regarding the sudden disappearance of Lauryn Hill from the public eye. While initial speculations hinted at struggles with addiction or mental health, a recent revelation from Lauryn Hill introduces a surprising twist. She asserts that her career decline was orchestrated by none other than her once close friend and collaborator, Beyonce.
Young people know that it is not a burden to love him and to represent him.
Looking back on the past, a tale of intertwined destinies emerges, where the trajectory of one star faltered as another soared. Lauryn Hill, at the heart of this narrative, reportedly turned down a lead role in the Hollywood production Charlie's Angels, aligning her decision with a specific brand of feminism. In an interview, Hill expressed, "Men like it when you sing to them, but step out and try and control things, and there are doubts. This is a very sexist industry. They'll never throw the genius title to a sister." Gradually, the burdens of celebrity life began to weigh heavily on Lauryn Hill. Her days became a whirlwind of tours, film projects, and music production, with even simple activities like shopping tainted by the constant presence of paparazzi. In response, she parted ways with her managers, withdrew from public view. Lauryn Hill has penned a chilling open letter, offering insights into what she alleges to be a perilous landscape within the music industry. Over the past several years, she has deliberately chosen to stay within what could be described as an underground domain. This decision stems stems from her desire to foster a community of like-minded individuals, those who value autonomy and the freedom to pursue their aspirations, shielded from the influence of a media-backed military-industrial complex with a distinctly different agenda. She articulated, "Having put the lives and needs of other people before my own for multiple years, and having made hundreds of millions of dollars for certain institutions under complex and sometimes severe circumstances, I began to require growth and more equitable treatment, but was met with resistance." There is substantial evidence suggesting that she prioritized the needs of others, such as Beyonce, and in return, her own career suffered. Now, the same goes for Jennifer Lopez as well. Though her singing career has brought her a lot of fame and success, JLo has been known to frequently rip off other artists. Jennifer has had a bad habit of borrowing vocals from other artists and passing them off as her own. While it's not uncommon in the music industry for artists to use backup singers, it's a bit less common for a big artist to completely steal another artist's vocals, because people can usually tell the difference. But Jennifer Lopez didn't seem to care. Take her song I'm Real, for example. It's one of the classic cases where she completely ripped off someone else. I'm Real was Jennifer's attempt to appeal more to an urban audience and boost her album's chart performance. The song was released as a single, but most of it was written by Ashanti, who would go on to become the R&B princess of the early 2000s. Now, Jennifer Lopez didn't just stumble across this song and steal it from Ashanti, even though it might seem that way. She didn't have that much power. What actually happened was that Mariah Carey and her ex, Tommy Mottola, who is a big record executive, were feuding. Tommy found out that Mariah was making a song with J. Rule, so he asked the producers to create the same sound for JLo. Essentially, Tommy wanted Mariah Carey's career to flop and used Jennifer Lopez as a catalyst.
Tommy told me. Hey, get out of it. And he calls me because he found out me and Rule made a record with Mariah Carey. And at the time, he hated Mariah Carey.
The song was originally written and sung by Inc. It was recorded and performed by Ashanti, so it was completely her song. But Jennifer Lopez was ordered to recreate it because Tommy felt like JLo was more of a competitor for Mariah and could help take her out. But don't worry, guys. Jennifer Lopez wasn't able to take out Mariah. We know how that story goes. However, Ashanti's vocals were used all over the track, and that's really the issue people have with this breakout song. Jennifer Lopez also faced controversy for a line in the song where she used the N-word, which outraged fans and led to protests at one of her NYC concerts with banners. Because Ashanti's sound and lyrics were such a hit for JLo, Ashanti went on to write and sing another song for her titled Ain't It Funny, which was another big hit for JLo, even though it wasn't necessarily her work. Here's a clip of Ashanti's voice so you can hear how similar it sounds to what Jennifer Lopez puts out.
Funny, baby, that you want me when you had me.
A lot of fans picked up on this later on, or in hindsight, realizing that JLo's persona seemed pretty manufactured and gave off a vibe of being like an industry plant. Ashanti even explained her frustration with having to write, produce, and perform vocals for music that ended up being used by JLo instead of herself. While Ashanti was initially excited for JLo, it's clear she has some lingering resentment about the whole situation.
I also referenced I'm Real for her, and they left my background vocals on the record.
And people, they say, you know, are you the ghost voice for, you heard that?
Yes, I heard that.
JLo is also known for her hit Jenny from the Block, a nickname she still has today. Remember the scene in her documentary where she's that 16-year-old from the Bronx with messy hair? This song was another attempt for Jennifer Lopez to boost her street cred and make herself appear more urban. Interestingly, the voice for this single originally belonged to Natasha Ramos, who demoed the track for JLo. Natasha's voice has a striking resemblance to Jennifer Lopez's, so it seems like JLo didn't have to put in much effort because Natasha had already sung the song. Despite this, Jenny from the Block played a significant role in making JLo a big name. Fans were upset to learn that it wasn't JLo's original work because the demo was released, and people could hear that the chorus and bridge didn't sound like Jennifer Lopez had altered them at all. She essentially just used what Natasha had produced. Natasha was quoted saying, "I think the problem with Jenny from the Block is that they kept my laugh, they kept my ad-libs, and they turned her vocals all the way down. The from the Bronx part is me." We've actually heard from Natasha, and she's spoken out about how she feels on this. Let's dive into what she has to say about the situation.
I think the problem with Jenny from the Block is that they cut my laugh and they kept ad-libs and they turned her vocals like all the way down.
You might be thinking there's a witch hunt against Jennifer Lopez, or wondering if Natasha is just making it up. But when you hear Natasha sing, it's clear there's a lot of similarity between her voice and what you hear from JLo.
Don't be fooled by the rocks that I got. I'm still Jenny from the block. Used to have a little, now I have a lot. No matter where I go, I know where I came from. From the Bronx!
A lot of people are comparing this situation to Milli Vanilli. Milli Vanilli was a pop duo that got exposed for lip-syncing their vocals instead of actually singing their hit songs. It feels similar because just like Milli Vanilli, Jennifer Lopez has been exposed for not using her own vocals at all. One person wrote, "Could it be that JLo is so mean to everyone because deep down she feels guilty for having no talent and is actually projecting her insecurities on other people?" Another person added, "JLo is the biggest example of how pretty privilege makes her life easier. No one contradicted her because she was hot. Now that she is losing her looks, PPL are finally speaking up and seeing the truth." Natasha was struggling to pay her bills and working as a waitress while Jennifer Lopez was getting all the credit for her work. Not just her vocals, but also her laugh and ad-libs were used by JLo. Natasha's unique character and contributions were a big part of the song, and it feels like JLo just took all that away. Poor Natasha, it's tough to see her work exploited like that. She's a prime example of someone who's been taken advantage of. Another song by Jennifer Lopez, Ryan Die, was written and produced by Brandy and was originally intended for her. It's not a coincidence that Amerie's career stalled while Beyonce's skyrocketed. Nor is it surprising that JLo, another industry favorite, got to dabble in the same sound with no pushback. The truth is, Amerie created something that others recognized as too valuable to leave in her hands, and once they took it, there was no going back. Amerie didn't get a fair shot. She got erased. And the silence around it, that's how you know it was intentional. So when people say Beyonce and JLo are dangerous, it's not just about talent or performance. It's about how they move behind the scenes, how they align with power, how they benefit from trends birthed by others. And in Amerie's case, it was the day she realized that in the music industry, innovation without influence is a setup for sabotage. That's it for today. See you in the next video. Until then, goodbye.